Good evening, BookTube. It's Ben here from the History Fella channel. I hope you're all okay and doing well. Doing this in the evening because obviously the nights are getting light. No, they're not. They're getting dark, obviously, because we're getting up to Christmas time soon. But it gets dark here about half 3 in the afternoon, 4 o'clock. And of course, tonight's one of those wet and windy nights, so I thought I'd do a video. I've had some books in from Pen and Sword Books, but there's a slight difference to some of these ones because a TBR list at the moment, I've got about nearly 30 books from various publishers that I need to get read and reviewed soon, or sooner rather than later. And then of course I've got a couple of books that I'd like to just read myself. So the difference with these ones I've had from Pen and Sword is that they're more photographic heavy rather than text heavy and full of just, constant information. So these ones are a bit lighter than normal. And actually the first one I'll show you is probably the most text heavy one I've got at the moment, which has arrived today. This is The Role of Intelligence in the Battle of Britain, and that's written by Norman Ridley, and it's published by Airworld Books. And basically, like the title says, it looks at the various forms of intelligence and the units that were in charge of intelligence during the Battle of Britain. So I'm presuming, as most of there'll be a lot of stuff about radar, because the Germans didn't have radar in the Battle of Britain, but Britain did, so that we could tell when the Luftwaffe were coming over. So just going through the contents here. Chapter 1, Luftwaffe Intelligence, German radar, RAF intelligence, the Dowding system, testing the Dowding system to destruction, the Tizard Committee, Enigma, Polish code breakers, and then there's more like the Oslo report and how the Enigma machine works. So I quite like intelligence type stuff, so that sounds quite interesting to me. On the inlay of the cover it says, the Battle of Britain was fought mainly between two airborne military elites and was a classic example of pure attack against pure defence. Though it was essentially a war of attrition, it was an engagement in which the gathering, assessment and reaction to intelligence played a significant role on both sides. So as I quite like that, I'll probably give that a good read, and then I'll probably do a decent review on that. That's by Airworld Books, The Role of Intelligence in the Battle of Britain, written by Norman Ridley. Right, second one is a small book, but it's kind of like it's not really a book. It's a bit it's about snippets of information, really. It's this one, The Book Lover's Guide to London by Sarah Milne. And although I very rarely go to London, I've only been probably 2 or 3 times. I quite liked the write-up of this, and it gave you lots of snippets of information about famous authors and books and where they were sort of written and published. And there's also various sections in here about famous bookshops and characters, so I'm quite looking forward to that one. That's published by White Owl Publishing, and that's The Book Lover's Guide to London by Sarah Milne. And the next one is one of my favourite ones, the Images of War book. Schnell Bootwaffe, Adolf Hitler's Guerrilla War at Sea, the S-Boot 1939 to 45. This is all about the number of small boats that Germany brought into the Second World War, and they could use them for, well, the aim was, in the name really, the guerrilla war, was that these were fast movable boats that they could use for fast responses if they needed them, and because they were smaller boats they could get into better areas or through minefields and that sort of thing. So it is mainly photographs, but there is quite a bit of info in there, and I'm going to enjoy that one. The next one is The War on the Eastern Front. That's by Alexander Hill. The War on the Eastern Front, the Soviet Union, 41 to 45, and it's a photographic history, and that is published by Pen and Sword Books. So it's a decent chunky size book, but I've kind of grown to like the Eastern Front. When I first started learning about World War II and all that, all I used to really hear about was the battles on the Western Front, and you know, involving America and Britain and all the fighting mainly around France. But I've become quite fascinated with the Eastern Front and the role Russia played, and it's just really good, I think, so I'm going to enjoy this one. On the back it says photographic record of the Second World War on the Eastern Front. Over 300 wartime photographs selected from the RIA Novosti press agency. Direct insight into every aspect of the conflict on land, in the air and at sea. Documents wartime conditions as they were experienced by soldiers and civilians across the Soviet Union. Unforgettable images of each phase of the struggle, from the Nazi-Soviet pact in 1939 to the German surrender in 1945 and the Soviet war against Japan. And there's some really good photos, it looks like. It's certainly on the cover, so there must be some excellent ones inside. What I might try and do is get some of the photographs and do a review on this, so it's just better if it's a photographic book if you can show some of the quality of the photographs as well. Right, next one is Charles Dickens, Places and Objects of Interest by Paul Kendall. Now, there seems to be like a thing, this is published by Frontline Books, priced at £25 or $42, but there seems to be a thing lately, or certainly in the past year, where there's a thing for books about various events or things, and they do like 100 objects. I've got a couple. Let's just have a look at my bookcase. I've got the First Blitz in 100 objects. I've got the Third Reich in 100 objects, but there's also ones like Civilization, Napoleon. There's I'm sure there's another Second World War one, and then there's also one about U-boats as well. And they're quite interesting, and if you don't really know much about the subject, like the one I found was about U-boats, and I don't really know much about U-boats, but it was very interesting seeing all the photographs and things that were quite particular to U-boats, and seeing them and reading all about them. But so yeah, I mean, I like Victorian England, so I thought, well, I'll give that a go. It looks like it should be quite good. That's Charles Dickens. Places and Objects of Interest, and that's published by Frontline Books. The next one I'm really looking forward to because I've got the previous 2 books in this series. I think it was 2. I've got Infantry Warfare. Oh no, I've got 4. Infantry Warfare, Tank Warfare, Artillery Warfare. And then this one is A Photographic History of Airborne Warfare. And it's written by the 2 same guys, Simon and Jonathan Forty. 39 to 45, and that's published by Pen and Sword Books. I really enjoy this because the photos and the information is just brilliant, but they do it in an analytical way, so there's always lots of charts, diagrams, experiences of using the machines or the equipment, and the knowledge you get in here is so vast and informative that the 4 books I think are just brilliant. That's Airborne Warfare. On the back it says highly illustrated history of airborne forces warfare during the Second World War. Covers Allied and Axis airborne forces on every battlefront during the conflict. Over 400 photographs and other illustrations plus extracts from wartime documents and reports. Shows how airborne tactics developed and changed during the course of the war. Describes how paratroopers were used as elite ground forces. Insight into the experience of military parachutists and glider troops. 4th volume in Pen and Sword Studies of the arms that made up the armies in the Second World War. And I can't praise these 4 books highly enough. If you can get a hold of a copy and you're new to World War II, these will give you an excellent history, certainly of where things happened and what equipment was used. Right, the second last book is another book that we've not long looked at. This is The Crusades in 100 Objects. The Great Campaigns of the Medieval World by James Waterston, and that's published by Frontline Books. And I've found myself lately getting more interested. I've done World War II and the Great War for many years now, or certainly for a good while, and I'm just finding myself being drawn more towards medieval history, or things like the Romans and the Greeks, and going further back. So the Crusades is one of the things I've been looking at recently. So I saw this book and thought, well, I'll have a read of that. That should be good. Plus it'll help cement my basic knowledge of that particular history and time. It says The Crusades in 100 Objects, the Great Campaigns of the Medieval World. For half a millennium, throughout almost the entire medieval period, the Catholic Church sanctioned military campaigns against what is perceived as its enemies. The rise of Islam and its spread across large parts of the Middle East, Asia, North Africa, and even the peripheries of Europe, saw Muslim warriors seize the Holy Land, occupy Jerusalem, and threaten Constantinople. In response, Pope Urban II called for a crusade to retake the Holy Land, the first of 9 military campaigns that continued for the next 200 years. And really, it's the book is full of famous sites or items that are synonymous with that period of time. The statues. These 100 objects, they can range from anything, really, from a propaganda poster or a ticket or a piece of uniform right up to some sort of military type aircraft or plane if we're looking at World War II. But they're just fascinating books, I find. Rather than being so heavy on, you know, where you get a full-on history, it picks out and gives you a little bit of snippets of history for you to read and just entices you into the book. So that's Crusades in 100 Objects. And the last one is the Tiger I tank. German heavy artillery, German army heavy tank from the Eastern Front 1942. And this is made by Tankcraft, which is also made by Pen and Sword Books. And basically these books are like for model makers. If you love building model tanks and you like to design your own sort of camouflage, or you can paint the same camouflage that was used in various theatres of war, they are just really good for that. And the book provides you with lots of information, but also photographs. There we go. You see, so you can do lots of different things with them. Whatever you enjoy doing, you'll find it in here. Let me try and find. Oh, there we go. There's a list of a number of camouflages there. But there's 3 or 4 pages of those usually. And then of course you get the history that goes with that vehicle as well, and how well it did and what everyone thought of it. So that's the Tiger I tank by Dennis Oliver, and that's part of the Tankcraft from Pen and Sword Books. So there we go. That's my books, or pile of books that I've had this morning and yesterday morning, all in one video. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed looking at some of the books. Maybe you might have already read a couple of them. Let me know what you thought down below. And if you've enjoyed the video, give us a thumbs up please, because it all helps. And if you wouldn't mind, if you fancy supporting my channel, you can join me at hang on, I've forgotten currently. buymeacoffee.com/thehistoryfella. There's a link just below this video, so if you want to contribute something, then I would be very grateful indeed. And so thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you very soon with another video. So thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.